Week 8 is upon us, along with an all-new edition of the USFL podcast, welcoming one and all in to another exciting edition of the show. I just stated to you, I'm Zach Keilman in here, as always, alongside my good buddy, pal, compadre, the ref himself, for another brand new edition, episode 22 of the USFL podcast. Stefan, welcoming you on in here as always, man. How you feeling? Week 7, just we're past it, we're beyond it. We're really getting in the thick of talking about playoffs. What's new with you, man?
I'm feeling good, and I mean, after the action that we witnessed this past weekend, I mean, it was a holiday weekend, but there was a couple things that we're going to touch on a little bit later. But spoiler alert: flipping overtime. You were out there. You had that video up quick on Twitter when that was going down. What a hell of a game. I can't wait to talk about it. Yeah, maybe the outcome was probably not what you wanted, but holy crap, we finally got to see it happen. It's been, I mean, realistically, feels like years in the making to get to that moment, and we got it done. Other than that, I mean, it's getting to summertime, the unofficial start of summer this past weekend. Went out to the lake. My skin's peeling, had too much sun. I'm getting signed up, and now we're heading into week 8. And we were just talking about this before we started recording. We're just about 4 weeks away. 4 weeks away from the championship. 4 weeks away, right? 9, 10. Yeah, 4 weeks away. I just had to check myself there from summer stock.
We got this and then 4 more. Oof. So, I mean, yeah.
We're getting there. We are getting there. I'm super jazzed up.
Well, I will say to you, make sure you put that sunscreen on, man. You have the flakiness. You don't want to. I mean, I know down south in Texas, I imagine it's a lot more intense than up here in Indianapolis.
That's what everyone kept telling me. And I said, nah, my skin is too powerful for the sun. And it turns out it's not. It turns out it's not at all. That Texas sun got the better of me.
Well, okay, so this was all Memorial Day, so actually I gotta ask him, how was your Memorial Day for yourself then? You celebrate a little bit as well, besides going out to the lake, cook up. I know you like the crawfish broils.
Well,
you do that.
That's what we had. We had a crawfish festival going on down at the lake. So I mean, there's no perfect combo. You get Memorial Day, you get the crawfish, you get the lake. There's some music. I would give them maybe a C- as far as a cover band for Motown goes, but music nonetheless. But you know what? Anytime you're at the lake, I'll take it. It could be, well, I guess anything other than just a motor running in the background, and I'll be happy. What'd you do though? Cause you had like a beer tasting thing going on, right?
Yeah. We did I actually, it's funny. I worked overtime on Saturday, but I got off. I went straight over. Folks were holding, they were doing a beer tasting. So the whole idea, you bring over a craft brew or something from the area. We had to grade all of our brews. There were 12 different, growlers of just like craft beer. And we had to taste and sample them, rank them, and then whoever won got basically it's a place called Total Wine and Liquor. We basically got a $25 gift card to go and get yourself some stuff from a very fancy liquor store is essentially what it is. Turns out I won that.
Sign you up.
So that was I found a great IPA from a place called Traders Brewing in Indianapolis. Congrats. Thanks, guys, for helping me out with that. Fresh brew going right over there and taking the win. I was very happy with that. And besides that, I mean, football plenty for me, capping off Memorial Day. It's Indianapolis, so it's race season. Oh, yeah. May is the most important month in this city for everyone. So, it's just a big old ball of fun. And then, of course, later on, I get to watch later in the weekend, Coke 600, USFL football, arena football. I had plenty of stuff to do besides that too. Great times nonetheless. Hope you all out there, by the way, enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. Hope you had a safe time as well. And we're glad to have you on this episode. Before we jump into just a bit of the news of the week, getting into, recaps and such, got to go through all the checklist items, as you guys may know. Look, if you haven't followed us on social media by now, why haven't you done that? Come on, at USFL Podcast on your favorite social platform, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can follow us on all three of those. We post regularly on all three, especially if you want to follow along and make sure that you don't miss when these shows get dropped. By the way, you should also subscribe to this YouTube page if you're watching it right now, or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, by the way. And if you're on YouTube, click the bell. It builds morale. And I'm going to say it right now, Stefan. We have been borrowing that for our Arena podcast. Jim is taken up that mantle. He loves it that much. Anytime he's hosting an episode, we do like 3 a week and we rotate them. He uses that.
Well,
that
good.
Quote. It's like the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. So,
sign you guys up. Oh yeah. I mean, I used to say I'm the king of catchphrases, so I'm glad to see my catchphrases move on to new programs. I mean, it's in the newsroom family, so sign us up there.
Exactly. And so with that subscription, by the way, you also get a chance to be entered into our 5K giveaway jersey prize that we are doing once we hit 5,000 subscribers. Jerseys, I know we've talked at length off screen that there are some things going on with those that they're figuring out. But, when those things send, we'll talk about them first off. But second, we get to 5,000 subs, you get a free jersey that if you are entered and you are subscribed to our channel. So be sure to do that. Also, we are doing a championship ticket giveaway. We'll be doing that very soon before the playoffs hit, by the way. So if you want to be part of that, you got to do 3 things. Subscribe to this channel, comment on at least one of our episodes or clips, and then just follow us on Twitter. 3 things. You match all 3 of those criteria, you're going to Canton, Ohio, and we're going to be there too. So you can meet up with us while you're at it and doing it with spring stock as well. See, I can do segues.
Summer stock.
So close.
So close. But hey, sign us up. Either way, we're getting hyped. We're doing it. We're not cutting
summer. It's going into the summer. Summer stock, good sir, is going to be just like spring stock. See, I'll tell you.
There he goes. Like
that. The championship edition of what spring stock was. A multi-hour podcast we're going to be doing on game day during the pregame, but we have an extra twist with this edition the day before. We're organizing a group tour of the Hall of Fame. So if you want to be part of that, be sure to follow along with some details. We're going to be releasing a few more items about that soon. We are coming up on about a month away. As well as some guest list of folks we're going to have live on stream that we are organizing with that too. So keep things posted with that. If you're out in Canton, Ohio, though, be sure to stop by. We will be dropping a location on that as well. Should be a little bit more freed up. Canton has a little more parking than Birmingham, as we've learned. And then weather pending, we'll be outdoors, as you know. Otherwise, don't worry, we'll have a backup plan. We always have contingencies here. Me and the ref. We understand that by now. So yeah, but yeah, check out everything. Thanks for following us along here. Much appreciated. And let's get in to the rest of the news for this week. Really not too much going on. There is one major implication for really the off season, but it's starting out before we get to the playoffs here, really the tail end of it. And kind of it's a follow-up to the next step of what was announced earlier in the year that we slightly touched on. We're going to do it more because it's getting more serious. The USFL, its players, that is, they are set to be having an election on the basis of unionization on June 6th in Birmingham, Alabama. So if you are just now aware or being aware of what this is, back roughly last month, you're going to have the United States Steelworkers and the United Football Players Association come together. They essentially are helping to form a union for the United States Football League. It's 360 players that are in the said league at any given time. They are trying to allow that so that it not only is to help better maybe the conditions or at least help with the bargaining power of these players as the years go on, but they've based it on that they want to help grow the league and have it where the players have a say in the same room as the likes of executives do too. So this is the next big step. It was basically posted up that June 6th, they're going to be voting on this. If the vote does pass, that's where we get on and we keep moving down the line on tips for unionization. Some things to consider with that. This was first, by the way, revealed by Dave Kaplan over at The Athletic that dropped this nugget. Something that the USFL has already stated, they are not imposing on any of this. They have said today, at least a representative has said to Mr. Kaplan that they are not going to stop this or try and impose in any way. That has been the message since the beginning, that the league is basically trying to take a step back, let the players decide if this is the route they want to go with, and then move forward if that is the case. June 6th will kind of be that make or break to say, hey, they are serious about moving forward with this. then we have to go to the table.
Right.
Stefan, I mean, anything else you can take from that really sticks up with you on this issue?
Well, I'll say this. It's really interesting to hear the leagues at least say it publicly that they're not opposed to the effort. Generally speaking, I mean, it's two different worlds, but using professional wrestling as an example, there's always like major pushback into any of these pushes for a union. Looking at the AAF, looking at the XFL, we've seen people bring it up, but it never came into fruition. Again, neither league ever made it long enough to where it really could get implemented. But I mean, this really kind of got kicked off because of what happened with the XFL. I mean, Kenneth Farrow, we ran into him at that inaugural USFL game. And you know what? He's kind of, and there's plenty of other guys, but he's one of those guys kind of helping lead the charge in the background to at least help ensure that these players are taken care of if something happens down the line. Because, I mean, when it comes to spring football leagues, we've seen it time and time again. Now, the USFL, I'd say, is a little bit different cookie, just in the fact that they got Fox behind them. The executives seem happy. Everything seems to be rolling towards a year 2. But, I mean, as we've seen in the past, anything can happen. So I'm not mad at it. It'll be interesting to see how this truly moves forward after the vote, because I don't think it's just going to be something that, here we go, we're implemented, right? There's still, I think, there's going to need to be discussions, conversations, compromises, maybe even between both parties. And this will probably more likely come into effect for that 2023 season. But in all reality, you want to be professional. I think this is one of those things that helps you at least set yourselves apart from the competitors, especially with the XFL coming next year. You know, players are going to be looking at that. Well, they have a union where maybe it's not 100% perfect, but it at least guarantees me X, Y, and Z. Or I could go to the XFL. Yeah, they have a deal with Disney, but what if it doesn't work out? And then you're stuck in a kind of a crap situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm always up for players getting a little more representation here with anything that they are looking to do with the USFL. One thing I will say with this that draws me in is that, you know, the early talks about this, and this is just referencing back to when it was first kind of discussed between the UFPA and the United States Steelworkers kind of stepping in, you know, is that this is all about the players getting a voice on how they can improve it. Because I mean, I think you look at the landscape of football, there's a lot more options. There's going to be a lot more players getting employment now that will have opportunities to be getting into different leagues. You know, just the USFL alone had 360 registered that they were saying we're going to be looking to vote on this issue. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's a nice chunk of a player talent pool that, though, is possibly you can find more and more diamonds in the rough. I mean, they're going to be having plenty more avenues. And this is something with, you know, we've seen with other leagues that, you know, players want to have some sort of say so that they don't have to watch something that they're joining crumble, or that they get left in the dust at the end of when the dust settles. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Kenneth Farrow, who is one of the main cornerstone pieces of the UFPA, for example, you know, he knows all too well. You know, he was with the Alliance American Football with San Antonio, and then he was with the XFL in 2020 with Seattle. You know, two completely different situations, but when you go through two different league closures, when you start seeing how some elements of players are kind of just tossed to the side sometimes, more of the AAF, by the way, the XFL, I didn't really do a bad job. It's just that there still were some things they had to solve through bankruptcy. That was more of a delay issue. The AAF was straight up, they didn't know how to handle finances, and it collapsed horribly. So all this aside, you know, this is about protections as well for them. And if they want these leagues to stay around, you know, I think you have to listen to what the players feel is the best avenue as well. You know, because if you want to build something stable, I mean, yes, so for Fox's angle, you're a TV company. It's about viewership. It's about trying to make a good TV product, and players are part of that algorithm, of course. But you also want the players to say, okay, well, here's things we see you guys maybe aren't doing that we think could help you. And then maybe that helps influence making a better product and maybe better engagement as well. Because, I mean, you know, that's something, you know, they're more ground level than some people that might be, in Los Angeles, or that might not always be on the field every day or near in the stands every day. So I think like the unionization thing, I think is a good step for just like the niche of this sport that we're in. And I think it's going to continue. Like I'm going to say right now, I'd be shocked if the XFL, the next one, doesn't have this happen as well.
Sure.
Where players, I mean, credit, I know they're saying they're going to pay better and that they're already saying there are going to be benefits to USFL. I just think it's going to be a trend that's going to continue just because of previous experiences with other leagues. And I would not be shocked if you see Kenneth and his crew at the UFPA or his organization.
Right.
Crew seems like I'm demeaning it, and I'm not. His organization that he's with, I feel like they're also going to be helping to try and push or at least be an advocate there as well. Like, I highly doubt they just stick with one. So
yeah, I wouldn't.
This is going to be. I think
either.
this is a trend.
Yeah,
I personally think this is a trend.
I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see how it all rolls out. All right, it's something else to look forward to. We kind of talked about this in the last few weeks. Is the off season's coming, the end of the season's coming up shortly after that. There's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about from now or then until kickoff next year. And this could be one of those major items, depending on how it plays out, how those discussions go post the vote. Does it even pass the vote, right? So
True.
It's just something else to look forward to. But, speaking of looking forward to things, United by Football, one of my favorite shows every week. Look forward to that. I'm sure you tuned in this past weekend. You saw.
Yes, I did.
You saw. I almost didn't put this in the notes. I don't know how this slipped my mind, but the newsroom crew, I mean, it wasn't a huge featured moment, but we were there. So during that Scooby Wright segment where they're talking about Shark Dog, where's it come from? They mentioned the shirt, and on the show, on Fox, on broadcast, flipping TV, there it is. Beautiful at USFL newsroom tweet about that Shark Dog shirt, which I'm actually wearing under my ref shirt today.
Oh, you are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Shark Dogging it up. So, I mean, that made me feel pretty good. I mean, we've been building this brand for, USFL Newsroom's fairly new. Over a year old, but fairly new. But the newsroom brand, we're on year 4, going into year 5. And boy, was that some nice validation to see. And, thanks everybody for just following along, making us, one of those top accounts to, get all your news. Go to usflnewsroom.com daily. Yeah. But Zach, the Discord blew up instantly, clearly, which if you're not a part of, click the link down below. What were your initial instincts when you saw that?
Yeah. I mean, what else can you say? It's just kind of amazing to have something like that show up on a national television, mind you. That you get to for yourself in particular. I mean, you started this way before I even joined, so that's got to feel amazing to be going. Oh wow, one of my websites is being featured on this. And I think it was cool because it was a Scooby Wright. It was a tweet about the Shark Dog T-shirt. Scooby Wright being in an interview locally for a Birmingham radio station. That's something that I think is pretty awesome to see. And you gotta be happy about it. You embrace the league and they see that tweet and they use it in there. That was fun. I thought that was that made the lead up to the afternoon games is that much more, or at least that Sunday game that it was airing before made it that much more of a cherry on top going in. I already find watching every week as just routine at this point. Right. I'm happy when we get to Saturday and Sunday right now. That just made it a little extra special for me.
Oh, sure.
Just to see that up on the screen.
For sure. Well, my wife and I were sitting here. We had United by Football on. I saw, it's funny. I saw the tweet with the image, but for some reason, I didn't focus on who the tweet was from. Right? It looked familiar, but I'm tweeting left and right on different accounts all day, so I don't even remember half the tweets I put out. But I saw it, and then that's in, again, our Discord was, dude, I think you guys were on United by Football, which I didn't even know. I was like, really? I'm just watching this. Where were we? And then finally that came through. Had to rewind And thank God I had that DVR feature just for that, because I had to get a picture, get it up online. But then they even shared the clip a little bit later, which, of course, we had to retweet there. If you want those shirts, make sure you check out breakingt.com/USFL newsroom. Helps out the site there. I don't know if there's a discount for you, but it chips in a little bit to us. And you know what that does, Zach? That helps us put on more banger events like Summer Stock coming up. Speaking of shirts, one more quick one that I'm going to squeeze in here. I mean, I might have to go scoop up that Dave the Wave shirt. I ain't going to lie. That thing is pretty sweet. The mascot shirt coming in hot.
That was nice. They've been slinging those out a lot more lately.
Yeah.
I mean, credit, the season goes on, so you're starting to get things you can throw onto a t-shirt, moments in time from the league season. I don't know, Dave the Wave's just caught on. Like him and Blob have to be the two most popular mascots in the league. And the league, I think, recognizes it besides Stanley. Mm-hmm. So they throw those three up all the time.
Yeah, the other ones don't even get love. I don't even know if they get used anymore.
Pablo maybe, but they don't really often pull them out. It's you usually see the Blob or Dave the Wave out there.
Right. Which, come on, Breaking T, hook us up with a Blob shirt. And don't, you know what? Make it like ominous. Make it a little bit of creepy. A little creepypasta Blob shirt. Sign me up on that. Give us some lore to work with here. Either way, Breaking T, I've been liking what they're putting out. Again, it gives us a little bit extras on the merchandise front. It's funny. Speaking of merchandise, I'm going to slide another story in here, Zach. Sorry, I'm thinking of things as we're going that aren't in the notes. Quick update on the jerseys. So I still haven't received notification that my jerseys were shipping. So I emailed support the other day on the 1st, and I got a response back basically saying, look, essentially the same thing that they had said to you, but the date had changed to mid-June. But then I believe the same day I saw some people started receiving notifications that they had shipped. Mine still have not shipped. I have 3 of them. So I don't know if it's by team. Maybe some of the vendors have some of the teams in before some of the other ones. I don't know. But if it sticks, what support is saying, if you have a jersey out there, it's still on pre-order. Sounds like mid-June is now the goal line of when they're expecting those to go out. But we got a little over 2 weeks. We'll keep you posted, not next week, but the week after.
Well, they at least better get those Stallions ones out because they're sold out of those right now. So I would at least get your home squad if you can. I don't know. I mean, because I'm wondering if they aren't even there by the time the season wraps up, which would be. I mean, I'll be frank, that would be unfortunate.
Right.
I don't know. I know they're talking on when we've emailed them. It's about something with the creation or distribution of them that is delaying these,
which makes sense because everything's just borked right now when it comes to supply chains.
Yeah, you want to do a whole show about just talking about life with new elements, with new stuff that's extra challenges. I can do that, but I'm not going to do that with this show. So I guess, that I can reasonably say. Obviously, that's still going to leave people disgruntled, on online shopping. If you order it, you expect it. And of course, with a new league, people want their merch.
Sure.
The league's slowly been getting new stuff, so that's at least nice.
Well, we have the Sideline merch now. The quarter zips are finally up there. We got some water cups, water jugs. Well, I don't know what you call those aluminum cups, but they got
bags as well. Yeah. More embroidered hats,
right?
Unique stuff like that. And I think, stuff like that, I think is also a side effect of just them very quickly getting into this first season. It's funny, we almost forget now we're at week 8, and it's like it seems like almost an eternity to go for some people that we were talking about how rushed this felt at times going in. Now we're here. I think that's like one of the only residual things from that quickly getting into the season, like less than a year setup, was probably the merchandise side. But you hope. Year 2, like once the jerseys come in, I think we'll finally get to talk about everything.
Oh, sure,
that's it.
Sure.
It's only been recently that some people have started going, oh, wait a minute, these pre-orders, they got to be coming soon, right?
Yeah, and
they probably are.
I think they'll come soon. I think at least they're. I don't know if this is a goal, but they're probably at least trying to hope that people that have them ordered get them at minimum before the playoffs. So if they plan on attending a game, they can wear them. Now, I don't know if this is the case, but speculation zone. I wonder if part of the supply chain issue is the league also trying to get extra stockpile so they have merchandise available to sell at the championship. So they might be playing this tightrope act of, man, we need all this merchandise. We need to get it to these people, but we also need stuff on shelves at this big event that we're going to be throwing here. And that might be causing a little bit of a blockage on the supply chain side of saying, well, come on, guys, we can only do so much at once. So I wonder, again, speculation zone. All right.
It is definitely speculations. I mean, there's still stuff that they're setting up for. I mean, hey, talking about the championship, Van Hurst out there, I will say kudos to him. He's one of those like Jake Henry who, they look through meticulously with like details on the leagues and things like that. He's been checking ticket sales, or he's pre-ticket sales on Ticketmaster. Mm-hmm. Those club seats that we have, looks like we'll be into a packed party. They're selling pretty quickly.
Very good.
So that's a good sign. I would think so. It's a good sign for the general admission tickets. If the club ones are selling well, one I would think could reasonably assume that the general admission should be selling all right. Mm-hmm. But that's just my hunch based on seeing the images. Like all the sections I think are either just about or under 100 tickets left for club. And I think a few of them are under like 50 or pushing under 50.
Very nice. That is
so
very good.
They are selling decently. And there's, for at least there's still a few weeks left to sell. Mm-hmm. So, well, it shouldn't be too bad. I don't think I think there'll be a solid crowd for television.
Yeah.
It's looking that way.
I sure hope so. I mean, I just for, if anything, I like being there live with the crowd, with the excitement. I think we'll see a good amount of people show up, but I want to see a great amount of people show up. And that's why, but that's why we're doing summer stock. We want to entice people to come out to the game. I mean, it's just one extra goodie. Get a free hot dog, even if you don't like us. And then that championship game, we're going to be partying. And Zach, I'm telling you this, after that game, we're throwing a party. I hope James and Jake and all the newsroom crew have time to come hang out with us. Cause I mean, we did it. We would have now made it through the full season reporting, doing the podcast. We are going out on the town. Canton isn't going to know what hit it. I'll tell you what.
We had a great time in Birmingham with, the USFL show crew. So, I mean, one can only assume we'd have to try and have a hell of a time doing it in Canton, Ohio.
Which I need to get with those guys and somehow coerce them to do something and get up to that game because I just want to party with them again. It's funny because I don't live close to them, but I live 5 hours or so from where they live, which is, much closer than the trip to Canton, Ohio. But I am a busy man to be driving to Louisiana. But if we're all going to the game, let's go hit the town. But, I'll get on the horn with those guys here in the next few days because I'd like to have them on the show again as well. Maybe we'll have them call in at minimum.
One segment that ties in as we go into the recaps, they do a segment, Big Beautiful Gentlemen. Yeah. And so we have to highlight when we talk about this first contest, there was a big, beautiful gentleman that got a nice touchdown catch in a losing effort, mind you, for the Bandits, but it was a nice, a hell of a catch. If you can tell, we're going to talk about New Jersey and Tampa Bay. Second week in a row. 1 week removed really from an injury from DeAndre Johnson. For the Generals, that is. So Louis Press starting in that one. Came down to the wire again. Bandits, second straight week. They've been at the doorstep, possibly trying to tie. They just can't finish the deal. Nope. It's just right now. It's Heartbreak Hotel for them. Can't finish the deal. Can't get in the end zone. Still some inconsistencies in just different facets. Very, very stop-starty. Bandits fans. We talk about Jordan Ta'amu every week like it's clockwork at this point. Like slow starts lead to then like some solid play leads to possibly a winning effort. Right.
Yeah. There's not that. And I would say it's tough to find any of the teams that are 100% consistent all the time. But yeah, they're definitely two different teams at within different games and even in the same game. And this kind of showed it. You got it close, but you just couldn't get it done. I mean, not nearly as bad as some of the other teams that are just racking up those so close but no cigar losses. Here's the thing is they still have some time to redeem that season, but it's getting slim. It is getting slim. So, and we'll touch on that here in a little bit. So they're really going to have to start picking up the pace. But I mean, New Jersey, on the other hand, once again proving that they are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, other than that first week, which was, I'll remind everybody, a close game, could have really gone either way. Just one play away, one made field goal away, and you got a different outcome here. 6-1 now on the season. Bandits are down to 3-4.
Oh, absolutely. They can do it all.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they've pretty much, well, they've secured their playoff spot. They were the first team to secure the spot, which, interestingly enough, they also assisted Birmingham, which we'll talk, in securing their spot by defeating the Bandits. So it was kind of a win for the Bandits as well, even though they weren't the first one to get that clinching spot. But they're just showing that they're going to be a tough cookie to beat coming this offseason, because it looked like, okay, DeAndre Johnson's in the game. They turned into a different team. With him coming out, brought some questions up. Sure, they didn't win in dominant fashion, but you know what? A win's a win, and they're 6-1 on the season. And sure, now they even have Laletta out there as another option should they need it.
Yep, they do. I mean, yeah, it's funny. Like last week, he had after the fact, you had to of course add in that portion about Shea Patterson, Kyle Laletta, being released but then picked off waivers immediately. Funny now, both of them. We'll talk, but both of them now are inactive, like practice squad QBs for these teams. And probably just because they have stable options. Like the Breakers, they have Zach Smith and of course Kyle Sloter, who's leading the way, and then the Generals, DeAndre Johnson and Luis Perez. What we've already said enough on them this year. What can you say? But Perez, it's funny. Watching this game, you can tell the offense still is very much different. It's different entirely, I think, without him or without DeAndre Johnson. And Perez has been solid. He definitely can get the job done. He can make the throws when given full control of the offense and getting a rhythm. And clearly, something that more and more that I think Mike Riley and crew are realizing is, man, Kevontae Turpin, we really should have been using him like I know the beginning of the season, it's a lot of feeling out, but now like the last 3 weeks in general, it's almost like, man, I can't believe this guy wasn't getting touches at the beginning of the year, at least as consistently as he does now. Cause he's arguably there besides Darius Victor, who has started to, I mean, they still split carries, but he's starting to supplant Trey Williams in that role. He's starting to become the main back. Turpin's becoming the main receiving option and the main weapon anywhere else in that offense if they're not just giving Darius the ball to run. Oh yeah. I mean, he's doing jet sweeps. He's catching quick passes. I mean, this week he had just a short pass, but because he's so shifty, one or two cuts, you're into the end zone.
Oh yeah, he is. I mean, he's a star, man. He is great, and I mean, as much of the guys that these teams can hold on for year two, I mean, then you can start building around, like now okay, here are the pieces that work. Here's how we're going to wedge it in and truly become a dominant team. Because, I mean, the Generals are scary. And earlier in the season, if I looked at a General Stallions championship game, I'd say Stallions. Now, I don't know, man. I don't know. It'll be a fun one to watch if we get that far. I don't want to jinx anyone. I don't want to, get anybody's hopes up, if you will. But it's feeling like that's where we're heading. But
it certainly does. I mean, I'm not we'll talk about the Breakers in a minute because they're probably, in my opinion, they're the only other team I can see being there right now. That's just me. I mean, that could change. Obviously Philadelphia is still right now in the hunt, but I don't know. I don't get the same presence as I do with New Orleans. The South's just been stronger all year anyway. Which is amazing to think that we're talking about the Bandits in such a awkward light, and they're 3-4.
Right.
And I mean, think about this too. I mean, Jordan Ta'amu, he threw 3 interceptions in that first half. It was pretty ugly. They still were in it at the end. He still slung 237 through the air. It's just that, I don't know, some things just don't seem to click right away for the Tampa Bay. or it's just the same errors over and over that I keep seeing. First half, really the highlight of the day was Corbin Kaufusi. A lineman catching a pass, on a trick play, going for 32 yards. I thought he was going to be in, by the way.
Right.
I thought he was going to slip the tackle and rumble into the end zone. The former basketball center himself. Mm-hmm. But he's got some good hands. I mean, honestly, if he could slim down, he might be a tight end. Yeah. Being frank, because even like the broadcast, even Burmeister, he thought, "Oh, that's O'Grady."
Right.
And it wasn't O'Grady.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much it fooled everybody on that pass.
Oh, yeah.
And besides that, like it took a whole half for really the rest of the Bandits receiving corps to even catch up. There was just a few miracle passes for Vinny Papali that started everything and finally got things moving. And it just doesn't get clicking fast enough sometimes. And honestly, I'll keep saying it. I think the Bandits receiving corps lets down Jordan Ta'amu sometimes. Those interceptions were bad.
100%.
They were. This week it was mainly him. But I cannot explain how, like, sometimes you see these guys make amazing catches, but it seems like every week there's like baffling drops that Tampa Bay commits in the receiving corps. And I'm just thinking, what are you guys doing? If you make a few more of these catches, Ta'amu's capable, as we saw 2 weeks prior. He can throw the 400-yard, 68% completion rate, 4-touchdown game. Mm-hmm. You just got to give him opportunities, and he's scrambling for his life at times too.
Oh yeah, right.
It's been problematic for Tampa Bay all year. Todd Haley just has not been able to find a way to get these guys to consistently run this offense where they aren't scrambling at the end of a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but you know what? They're still in the hunt. And all it takes is a couple, maybe a couple little adjustments. Like you kind of alluded to, is they show these flashes of greatness, right? It seems like they have a slow start in a lot of these cases, especially their losses. If they can tighten up those things and win out the season and hope for the Breakers to lose a couple games here, I mean, they could easily scoop into that number 2 spot in the South. But, I mean, time is running out, and you need to make those adjustments because, sure, you can make the postseason. It's nice to get that extra bonus. But, I mean, if you're going to the postseason, you want to get to the championship game. Right. You don't want to go to Canton to lose in the playoffs. You want to go to win. And if you want to win, you got to tighten these things up.
If Todd Haley is saying anything, I imagine after that game, he's like, guys, we've had 2 weeks in a row where we've made mistake after mistake to where we could have walked away with this. Mm-hmm. The Generals they were kind of stagnant-ish in the fourth quarter. Very much couldn't get things going. The Bandits locked things down, slowed down drives, kept Tampa in the game for the rest of the second half for the most part. It's just that you got to finish. And so this week alone, here's the deal. The Bandits have their best chance this week, I think, is going to be to catch up to New Orleans, to have their shot on week 9 when they face New Orleans again after their last meeting where they got shellacked.
Yeah.
I mean, if you beat Houston this week, you're 1 game back. Then you got to beat New Orleans, which you would be tied at that point. You would be tied for that spot. It would come down to tiebreakers. The only kicker, although I would be kind of intrigued by this kicker, they play Birmingham week 10.
Right.
But what does Birmingham have to lose now? They're clinched.
Right.
So
right.
I'm wondering, like I said, if Tampa wins this week, the whole playoff race for the South for that second spot becomes fascinating going into week 9.
It really does because, you bring up a good point because then it's really down to Birmingham week 10 to say, who do I want to play? Kind of hoping, pending what the Breakers do along the way, right?
Right. I mean, and we've been talking, we'll keep hammering this home the next few weeks, especially if spots get locked. Do you rest starters? Do you put backups in? Are the backups going to be able to get wins? For the New Orleans, like I said, if New Orleans wins week 9, say if my prediction for this week is correct, say they win week 9, then that's it. We go week 10 and we're set up. But, Tampa Bay's still in it. That's what's kind of crazy.
Right.
They've shown that they can play close with these playoff contenders like New Jersey and Philadelphia. They just got to finish. And this week you have to get right so that you can play week 9 to have that shot to make a comeback and get that second spot. They missed opportunities though. A lot of the same issues this week kind of plagued them. That's the main takeaway from this. A lot of same issues for them. As for their rival, by the way, in New Orleans, Tampa almost got fortunate and they almost were able to stay within a game, which then would have made week 9 even more crazy if my theoretical predictions go correct. Mm-hmm. Because, Michigan for a good duration of this was, they were pushing for an upset. And it was because they switched things up. Josh Love was doing pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. Yeah, very surprising, especially coming off his stint with Pittsburgh, where it seems like nothing works in Pittsburgh. He came into Michigan looking pretty good. And your dude Cole Murphy is just lighting it up. He has to have changed Coach Fisher's mind on kickers at this point.
60-yarder. 60-yarder. That is, and I haven't been able to find anything to not support this. My understanding is this is the longest field goal kick in any spring league outside of any football league outside the NFL.
NFL and college. College, I think, is 63, but the NFL is like 62 or 63 or something like that. But yeah, even that, because you're right, in spring leagues of the past, I would remember if we had a 60-yard field goal. I guarantee you there's some agent looking this guy up right now and saying, why is he not on our team? Right? Lions, give him a call. We're known for our great kickers, and that's it. Sign him up. Send him from one Michigan team to the other. Probably the same record.
But that's see, Cole Murphy's one of those like Young Hao Koo that I think NFL teams would be looking at and going, this guy can drain a 60-yarder. He's pretty damn accurate. Oh man, I might be wanting to call him in, and that's just for off-season purposes. But you drain a 60-yarder, that makes press.
Oh yeah,
that is a rare feat in the NFL. It's a rare feat in any football league. Fun little fact, by the way, you are right. The longest kick is in college. It was a 69-yarder.
Oh my God!
Which is to fathom that is crazy.
Yeah.
That was hit by a gentleman here. Looks like last name Joannison. Oh, Ove Joannison. He was playing against East Texas State 45 years ago, and this article was dated back. Darn it, it's been a minute.
You know what's funny? It was probably
1976. There we go.
There's probably like a tornado going on in the background. Old East Texas State kicked that ball, just went flying on its own accord, and just so happened to go through the uprights. Because I'll tell you, in the NFL, generally speaking, anytime there's a record-breaking kick, it's up at Mile High. The ball just flies differently up there. Matt Prater, he broke the record with the Broncos, then joined the Lions and broke the record again in Mile High. And his was 63 yards, but I think somebody might have broke it by now, and I can't recall who, but I want to, or tied it in the last few years. Either way, Matt Prater, that's some nice company to be around. I'd say he's one of the elite kickers in the NFL. I don't know if he still is, but he was with the Lions. He almost never missed.
He's still one of the most consistent, and quite frankly, there's reasons why, dude has been automatic for a long time. And even, Mile High or not, that's the case. But yeah, 60-yarder in any league, you can talk any altitude or anything. That's impressive.
Oh yeah.
Cole Murphy has really made, he's come in, they had that god awful Carrizosa, had to go out in the worst way possible for him. I still kind of feel bad for the situation he's put in, but Cole Murphy's come in. That's like one of the shining bits for the Panthers in recent weeks, is him, and his consistent accuracy has been a godsend. And honestly, the league has made a complete 180. I know the chip was a big factor, but kickers that have been brought in, there's some that have been really damn good. It's to the point now where early season we're will any of these, do we have to sit on our seat every time? And now I'm pretty sure this will go in at this point. I can sit here and go, yeah, this guy, pretty sure he's going to make it. I'll be surprised if he misses it. So that's Cole Murphy, for example. Perlot with the Breakers, similar deal. He was successful with in the CFL anyway. I'm the same way with him. He generally nails it through the uprights ever since he replaced McGinnis. So,
right.
But that's an example. Panthers were doing it. The only thing is, it sucks. He was 4 of 5. His last kick he missed, which that could have possibly affected how we got the overtime outcome.
Yeah.
Because the Breakers did get one final possession after this moment. which led them to drive down the field, which led them to then see Parrott kick that game-tying field goal with a few seconds left on the clock. And, we got shootout overtime. First time.
Finally.
Something that so many of us as enthusiasts have been dying to see since the 2020 version of the XFL, since the USFL brought it in and adapted it, and we're ready to use it. And we've had a few missed opportunities. In fact, last week I talked about the Bandits. That was the best one. Or even this week, New Jersey and Tampa Bay could have been an overtime scenario as well. Tampa Bay's been on that cusp.
Right,
Michigan helped push it, and New Orleans, their rival, sealed the fate of we're going to overtime.
Well, and I mean, Michigan almost handed it to them on a silver platter right away because they committed a penalty on that first shootout play, putting New Orleans right at the 1 yard line. And I mean, he still passed it, which I was surprised about. And we got it done. They came back, but ultimately the Breakers made it happen. I mean, once again, and you and I, Zach, we're just trading off blows here with the teams that we chose. At least you got to overtime. You tied at regulation. Yeah, you lost. But hey, nobody's mad at the Panthers right now. For that alone, we got to see overtime out of this game. I mean, if we would have made it this season without seeing overtime, people would go mental. People would say, why can we just not get it? And I get it. There's different point structures that make it a little bit more difficult, right? If you wanted to go for 2 or 3, you could go for the win a little bit easier. But yeah. But we finally got it. And you're right. It would have been crazy if that Bandits Generals game would have went to overtime and we got back-to-back overtime games. But I'll take what we had. That was a fun game, though. And I'm just so glad that to finally see it. Everybody online seemed to be ecstatic about it, too. Maybe 1 or 2 people I saw moaning, but I'd say a pure majority of folks were not happy with just seeing it, but happy that with the outcome and how it played out.
Well, we did run a poll on our Twitter, and 88% of people said that it was good.
Right, yeah.
So, and that's out of 111 votes out of the folks we got in a 24-hour time frame. I'd say, yeah, I think definitively it was appreciated. And here's the thing. The reason it's adopted, instead of traditional, it's quicker. The suspenseful play is you get 1 shot per turn to get it in the end zone. Best 2 out of 3 wins, and then you got to get it if it's tied or you have the same scenario at the end of 3, you got to win by 2. So then, it just adds that suspense. Now, Michigan, I think I want to add a little caveat to this. I wonder what happens if Josh Love doesn't have his thumb banged up going late into the fourth quarter. It did affect him. Drives got stalled because of it. There were some folks, even on the broadcast, they were wondering maybe Paxton Lynch should step in here. It's a question I'm wondering because here's the thing when you throw, you got, of course, your regular you got your other 4 fingers that help grip the laces, but you got to have that thumb to where it helps with the control of the spin on the ball as well as when you release it and your general grip. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering how that would affect, because before he had that swelling, he was doing pretty well. Like he was getting a good rhythm. I think to me, what was nice, he was pushing the ball downfield. It seemed a little more than Shea Patterson did, which is funny how you have Shea Patterson trying to sabotage the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. They were not happy about that. No.
That was hilarious. Like you get that audio clip, Josh Love going, he's just telling the coordinator what we're doing, right? Like he's just going to him and saying, this is what this call is.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I wonder how that would turn out, because otherwise, Kyle Sloter is all right game for him. He was the hero at the end of the night. Obviously the Breakers were able to settle things down. It felt like overtime, a lot of people just had nerves. Like, I don't think they didn't know what to expect with this. That snap over Love's head was like the first sign. It's like,
God, yeah.
Was like, yeah, I think someone's a little nervous about what's about to happen.
Right. Ultimately, we finally got to see it. The Breakers, they're getting close to securing that spot, which we'll talk about here a little bit later on. The Panthers, amazingly, I don't think they're eliminated just yet, But it's I think it's inevitable at this point unless miracles can happen. I mean, we could see the beginning of a turnaround, but I think you bring up a good point. Josh Love having that thumb injury. I mean, it could halt a good thing before it really even gets started, which is unfortunate because I love to see it. I love seeing him come from the Maulers, which have struggled so much, and then come into this game and instantly look like he belongs there after only being there less than a week, really, right? So, I mean, maybe it's something to look forward to in this upcoming week. But the next game up, it's there's so much to take away from this game.
I mean, there's really one main person that's back in the spotlight after this one.
And not in a good way.
No, not in a good way. I mean, the Stallions, they took care of business, essentially. It was honestly a pretty ugly game for them. Mm-hmm. All things considered, passing attack wasn't on par all day. They had injuries to where Alex Magoo's trying to be a receiver. And I know that he's looking for opportunities. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to get their film and show they can do stuff, and Magoo's mobile. But, like, that was kind of an awkward, what are you doing type of thing. Really the only thing that was going right was trick plays and Bo Scarborough pounding the ground to where it's just you get enough yardage. And one or two good passes. Mm-hmm. I felt that were like truly like, oh, dang. Otherwise, the main takeaway from this is you're talking Kirby Wilson is not helping himself. It is more and more apparent that, things calmed down a little bit from the pizza thing at the beginning of the year. The sideline audio conversation caught when they were going to switch out Vadley for Ronald Rivers. I think that's finally put the realm of public opinion back on the opposite side of back to the normal against Kirby Wilson phase we saw back in week 1.
Yeah. Well, he just pulled Vadley out of the game near the end of the fourth quarter. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they did have a chance to pull this out. And just to make a point, you pull out, I mean, arguably the best quarterback you've had in the game all season. You put in Roland Rivers, and nothing against him, but, I mean, that first drive, you could tell he wasn't ready to jump in the game. I mean, he had, 3 minutes of warm-up time before he's in there with no plan, nothing ready to go. I mean,
he signed on Thursday of that week.
I mean, his second drive was a little bit better, but how you can't expect him to excel in a scenario, especially watching just what had just happened between the coach and the quarterback, not only on the sidelines, but on camera, on tape, not holding back. Kirby Wilson saying, we're pulling his ass out. And I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what to say about the Maulers at this point. I don't think they're redeemable. I've noticed Jenna Reagan, one of our fans, posted pontificated a question to us: is can you release a coach? And unfortunately, I don't think you can.
Well, think of it this way: the league owns these teams and it's under contract. It's up to the league. Mm-hmm. Like that's the simple answer. They would have to make that call.
Which I don't see them doing in the if anything, they just won't renew him for season 2, or I don't know.
I think that's the main question. Does Kirby Wilson keep his job next year? I think a lot of people want to know, like, do they go into Pittsburgh with someone that has now started to build a reputation for himself that I don't think people want to see in their head coach? Mm-hmm. Up until this week, I'd been saying I don't want any coaches let go year 1. Mm. Even in the NFL, I don't, unless it's like a Urban Meyer disaster, we're hitting the nuke button scenario. I don't agree with firing coaches after a year.
Right.
That's just me. Mm-hmm. And that could just be because I'm a Bears fan and I just am used to us not firing after year 1. I'm right
there with you, dude. Yeah.
But nonetheless, I don't usually go for that. So I'm like, even with spring football, I'm like, give this guy a second chance. But after this, I'm like, well, now you got players that, are not, I mean, I would assume you got players that maybe don't like the attitude. I mean, Vadley seemed to not like it. I mean, because you heard it correctly, they're trying to call Kirby wants to play. Vad says, I can't throw that, which okay, credit. I mean, it's not something I don't usually expect a quarterback to say,
Yeah.
but still, him saying I can't throw that and then going, okay, you obviously don't want to play. Get his ass out on the sideline. Let's get Ronald ready. And it's like, oh, what?
Right.
Excuse me?
Well, and I mean, Coach Holtz was kind of like playing with them, like a little bit of cat and mouse almost, because you mentioned some trick plays out there. I mean, fake punt on 4th down, which would have given the Maulers pretty good field position, but I don't think Skip Holtz was very worried about if they got it. And you know what? He goes for it, and if you wouldn't know it, it resulted in some points, moving the chains, getting it done. I love seeing stuff like that. I mean, 7-0 right now. At this point, they've beaten every team in the league. There's not one team that hasn't come through them that hasn't been taken out. I mean, there's still a chance to lose before the end of the season, especially going into that week 9, week 10. I don't know if they'll rest their players 100%, but I could see Jamar Smith coming in for like maybe the first quarter of week 10 and being pulled out, or maybe the first half and being pulled out, because wouldn't you kick yourself hard if you decide to keep him in the game and he hurts his groin, hurts his arm, even just breaks a finger, stubs a toe, which people laugh at that more than you would think online. There's a lot to having your feet ready and mobile when it comes to really any of these positions, no joke, but quarterback. I mean, that might be the difference between you getting away or getting sacked big.
Yes.
And so, all of those things count. So it'll be interesting to see. If I were them, and this is a crazy man talking here, I know Birmingham Stallions fans probably don't want to hear it, but just for the sake of things, I say you're better off taking a loss instead of going into that postseason 10-0. Now, I will say this: if you win the championship 12-0, yeah, don't listen to me. It was pretty cool and worth it. But I just feel like there's some like mojo misfire whenever that happens. I mean, the Patriots are the greatest example of that, because that team was looking hot going into that Super Bowl, only to get the dynamic duo up in New York coming and getting them. So.
Oh yeah. No, I'm feeling you there. By the way, it's Roland Rivers. That's on me. Right, yeah. Just wanted to backtrack, but I mean, the Stallions, that's going to be their big question now is, I know that the league is promoted that, they can still lock up the division, which eventually will matter more. Later down the line, it will matter more. It's just now, home field advantage doesn't really matter in this scenario. It's nice to say you'll get a division championship. So I think that's something you can hang your hat on. So they're going for that. Obviously they can lock that up. They beat New Orleans this week. They'll get the definitive number 1 spot. So that's what's on the line for them coming up. To backtrack to Pittsburgh here, final thought, because I mean, you want to even add on, besides the whole Vadley issue, just the way they ended the first half. I mean, we can just talk about that. If you have 1 minute and 49 seconds on the clock and you're up by 4, you don't go into halftime if you're moving the ball consistently. Because Vadley, I can understand his frustration. He was also caught on audio looking to get a hurry up offense, and they didn't do it. And I think that, to me, whether it is Kirby Wilson, whether it is the offensive staff, that's a failure to launch at every level. That's, for a person that has such a pedigree as an assistant coach, you should know that if you have that time, if you're making gains downfield in that set of a 2-minute drill, why are you not hurrying the ball up? It felt like they purposely wanted to just get this half over with, and it was really a damn shame because Marjorie London had a hell of a day and it was wasted partially on that. I know that Trey Walker was suspended, but come on, you got to find some sort of receiving groove. Bailey Gaither, I know he's the only other primary target that I think people bring up, but there had to have been some time. You knew this was coming with a suspension. That has to be a game plan scenario, getting your receivers up to speed. And I think that, I mean, besides just the Vadley incident, I think that's also a failure right there. That's also why I'm on the fence if maybe he doesn't keep his job, just because, performance and what the league looks like matters.
Oh, right.
If you are, and if you're trying to get into a market, you don't want to look like a sitting duck and lame duck.
Right.
When you're trying to do this. The other 1-6 teams have put up much better efforts throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh does have a win against Houston, but you could argue that their 1-5 looks much worse than Michigan or Houston's 1-5.
Oh, sure.
Or 1-6.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it seems like nothing can work in Pittsburgh. We saw the one shining moment that you mentioned against the Gamblers, but that's, I feel like, on the Gamblers at this point with their second half woes. I mean, credit where credit's due with Vad Lee getting it done, sealing the deal. But that's what kind of boggles my mind a little bit is watching Coach Wilson also like already getting frustrated with him after he was the guy that brought you your first win. Now I get, when 1 week is completely different than the next week, but you need to listen to your quarterback. Yeah, it is a little bit surprising to hear somebody say, I can't make that throw. But what would you rather him do? Go out there, come up short and get a pick? Right? I mean, you need to work with your players to make the team that's available to you, right? You're not going to, if you have a running quarterback, you're not going to make them throw all the time. I mean, Tim Tebow would be a perfect example of that. I mean, he amazed me with his little balloon passes up in Denver that people would receive them. But I mean, in most cases, in most scenarios, what the guy's good at is that's what you kind of want to excel at. And so asking them to go outside their box, I get pushing them as a coach, trying to get them to strive more. But if they legitimately know that's not going to work, I mean, they're right out there on the front lines seeing what those defensive lines look like, what the cornerbacks out there, how they're working. He's going to have a pretty good idea of what might work or what not. Either way, we'll have to see how this goes. It'll be interesting to see as we move into the off season what happens with that coaching staff, because I mean, this is spring football. Kirby Wilson could come in next year, come back and have the greatest team. That's just how things work out sometimes, but we'll have to wait and see. Last game of the week though, boy, oh boy, to my Gamblers, they put in so much effort to get the lead at the half. Every week they put in so much effort to get the lead after the first half, only to do the same thing time and time again. Now, this isn't really a benefit, but it makes me feel better as a fan that they didn't lose on the last play this week. Granted,
solace, I guess.
Granted, that means they're worse off because it wasn't the last play. But I mean, I don't know how many weeks in a row you could take that. Couple takeaways, though. Clayton Thorson, injured. And it looks like he's probably out for a little bit now because he's over on the injury reserve. We saw Kenji Bahar come back into this game, and he looked all right, but I think he needs to shake off some of the dust. This upcoming week is going to be his first chance to really show what he can do with a full game under his belt. But it's a little bit too late after this one. I mean, the Stars, they ended up pulling out Case Cookus, helping his team. I mean, I think a lot of people thought when Brian Scott went out, the Stars were doomed. Cookus has come in and really, really helped his team out in some not so favorable situations. We've talked about that Swiss cheese line that they have.
Yep.
Right? The dude's been out there taking some mean hits, man. And I mean, in this game, this is what really kills me, man. Looking at the Gamblers' defense, Donald Payne does not deserve what he's getting with this Gamblers team. I mean, that dude, every week now, is just scooping them up left and right. But Case Cook is just one too many throws, one throw too many for this team. They fell apart again in the second half. It's just textbook at this point. You can just write it down.
It's almost guaranteed that it's bound to happen.
It's a damn shame. 35-24 too. So not even necessarily. It wasn't. Once you get outside that one possession game, because a lot of these games still throughout the season have been one possession. Not this one. The Gamblers. Damn it. I really don't know. I mean, they're not as bad as the Maulers. They are so good, but they just can't get it over the finish line. A great basis for next year, I guess.
I mean, I'm going to put this week on really The defense, I think, is becoming more and more Tim Lewis's unit that is more and more recognized as one that I think just feels like it collapses second half. The Stars put up 22. Now, credit, one of those was on a pick six. So, that was on Kenji not having a good read, taken back to the house there. But, honestly, Stefan, I mean, the defensive unit there, I would be looking at that going, man, you gotta shore things up. And actually, I take that back. It was not they had an interception that led to a quick touchdown. I take that back. Nonetheless, though, it's defensively, Houston has not been able to shore up second half. And really what Philadelphia leaned on, their running game is getting stronger each week. It's been impressive to see how Matt Colburn coming back healthy has really impacted this game. Darnell Holland definitely laid damage on his own. Because Case Cookus, I mean, it's another game. He did enough. He wasn't overly spectacular. Yeah, he threw his 2 picks early, but he did enough to command the offense to get him touchdowns and get him scores when needed. Obviously, had that really great on the run throw to Jordan Sewell. That was deep in the end zone. Nice touchdown that helped set up the Stars to kind of finish the rally to get that win. So there's plenty of things Philadelphia is doing right. And from the looks of it, just based on the roster updates, it looks like Case Cookus is going to be their guy the rest of the way. Brian Scott was put on the reserve list as well. So we thought he was coming back. Looks like it's not the case. We'll see what's up there because that's changed from what it recently was supposed to be. So it's the Case Cookus show right now. And they have a CJ Costello as well, who is the backup now in Philadelphia, Mississippi State and Kentucky quarterback as well. So obviously they have Mississippi State quarterback there. So they have options, behind him. But Philadelphia is coming on strong as of late. Houston, I mean, look, they're eliminated now. To me, it's purely an evaluation standpoint for them. Right. Thorson, I'd be shocked if they press him back into service this year. Yeah. I mean, an elbow injury for a quarterback, I don't know how severe it is, but like they were talking on the broadcast, if you're torquing that thing hard, if you're really putting a lot of force on that, which you do on throws like Clayton has to throw there with darts, like he was doing, I would say I'd be safe and see what Kenji can do healthy. He had some strides. I did I think I cursed him when I made a reference on our Discord about PJ Walker. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, how convenient. It's a QB from Houston wearing number 11, and he comes out and starts slinging it like, he's a pro. Right. And then, he has one bad pick. So I don't know, this week we'll see what he's got. He's mobile. He does have a good arm. But I mean, Houston's got a lot of work to look into this offseason. Honestly, defensively, I think they need front seven. They need to evaluate. I think this year, maybe someone else besides Will Likely, they need to take a look at on the opposite side.
Sure, right on. Yeah, I mean, if anything, like I said, I think you and the Panthers and the Gamblers have a good basis for season 2. They could be really those sleeper teams going into the next season. It feels like they just need to make 1 to 3 little tweaks and they'll be unstoppable. I mean, look at our records compared to you went to overtime. We lost the last 5 games now in the fourth quarter, really 3 in the last play other than this week. So close, no cigar. Now I will say you brought up a good point with Darnell Holland. The Stars not really known for being a running team. And this dude showed up, and maybe it was that Houston defense, but he really showed up for his team this week. And I mean, those are the little bits. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, and they squeezed out a win here. Not even squeezed it out, like I said, convincing, more than one possession here.
Oh, and they ended with 2 sacks.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. Last week when we were talking about this game, and this is why I thought Houston was going to win. We're talking the pick'em. I lost on this pick'em. I said to you, Philadelphia has an offensive line that Chris Odom and the like can take advantage of. What I didn't see happening, I guess this has been a trend. So now it's confirmed a trend this week after last. Philadelphia's starting to get a pass rush that can get back there to you on a constant basis. I mean, they tore apart Houston. They ravaged them defensively, getting back to either Clayton Thorson or Kenji Bahar. They racked up on the day, and I'm just counting this up here, 6 sacks on the day. 3 of those came from now who's becoming their star on defensive end, Adam Rodriguez, who he was just a nightmare for Bahar or Thorson. That right there. I mean, if you can keep delivering that pressure more consistently, which they've been doing better the second half of the season with that front four getting back behind the line, come playoff time, unless they have an utter collapse and Michigan or Pittsburgh finds a way, that could be your best case to try and hold down New Jersey if you can just mitigate their run game. So, great signs for them, because I didn't peg Houston to just be ravaged and lose on the battle in the trenches this week. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be their rebound game, with the glimpse of being eliminated out there, trying to keep, that from happening, maybe give them a little bit more momentum. But, sure, yeah, the Thorson injury didn't help. The defense kind of losing track of itself in the second half, like always, didn't help. And once again, we find ourselves in the same spot. Now just one loss added to the scoreboard, so a 1-6 now. God, how did we end up with Lions teams? How did we actually do it? It's amazing. We had, I don't know. But either way, the Stars over 500 at 4-3 now, further solidifying that number 2 spot. I mean, other than an utter collapse, like you mentioned, or just something crazy out of the Maulers, which isn't going to happen. But if there was going to be one, the Panthers would be my candidate. They're getting into the playoffs. Now, it would be interesting to see. Everybody's kind of half expecting that Stallions Generals game for the championship, but wouldn't it be a crazy thing to see the Stars and the Breakers there? Because it really could go either way in that postseason. Either way.
That'd be fun. I think Philadelphia is trending up in the right direction right now. They're healthy fully now. They're all their star talent in the backfield is there. Yes, Brian Scott's not there, but Case Cookis has done a lot to where you can say this offense can move and can function the way it was meant to be with him in there. So he's capable of doing it. And they got plenty of receivers, big body guys to throw to. So a lot of talent that's starting to come and hit their stride at the right moment. You want to be hot at this time of the year. That's good for them. And like you're saying, they could clinch up the playoffs this week. The last gasp for the North second seed for the Panthers, really, or even the Maulers, honestly, with their own trying to stay up pace is this week. So, Philadelphia, it's pretty simple. You beat Michigan, you're in. That's it. That's all you got to do. Execute, get it done. New Orleans, I mean, you got to win, and you have to beat the Stallions first off, which that's setting up to be a hell of a game this week. And then you have to also assume that the Gamblers will get over their cursed ways, and they'll beat Tampa Bay.
Right.
So a lot more steps. Maybe arguably more hard to see scenarios playing out in the South, but I digress.
For sure. Yeah, it'll be needless to say, it's going to be a fun weekend to watch. And this is the first one. It's Legion Field this week. So we have Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks is over at Protective. So I get it. Garth Brooks, he's a big old deal. Big old deal. Yeah. So we're heading over to the Legion Field this week. I saw some fans asking about like the parking and things like that. Quite honestly, I don't know. I would assume that it's going to be similar rules as Protective, but the parking lot, there's definitely more parking there. So once the lot's open, you can go tailgate and go into the game. Similar setup though. One ticket gets you both entrance to both of the games that day, or if there's 2 games that day, you get entrance. Tickets are the same price, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm really curious to see what the Stallions crowd looks like in Legion, because to me, it could go either way. We could see less of a turnout because some people might just not know. Let's be honest here. There might be people that show up to Protective this weekend and say, wait, where is everybody? Right. There could be people that just don't want to go down to where Legion Field is at. Alternatively, we could see a bigger turnout for like the nostalgia factor of it.
Well, I think for the Stallions, I mean, if we're talking the original league, I mean, that's where they played. That was their mainstay. Obviously, the Legion Field hosted several Iron Bowls, before they started rotating those back on a normal schedule for whoever plays for just every other year with Alabama and of course Auburn. So there's a lot of history there. It's definitely been the old gray lady as they call it there. It's been around a long time. There's a lot more seating though. It is a pretty big stadium. So if you remember watching the Birmingham Iron, they had a max. I think the max crowd they had there one time was a 17,000 crowd, which that doesn't really fill up the old gray lady. She can seat off the top of my head 70,000.
Yeah, it's insane. It's huge.
So, hey, I would love to see a turnout. I know that they're already we already see that they're placing down the mats from protective there in the end zones and on the sides. So they're going to be, covering up a few of the stadium seats already. But I don't know. I don't know if you'll fill it out. Maybe the nostalgia does bring people out. That's the only thing I agree with you. That could probably do for Stallions games, but it's probably status quo for everything else, guys. You know how it is. You might see like Houston fans or Breakers fans come out because they've been more and more. You see those guys, or even Tampa fans. You see the Southern teams coming out a little more and more. But it ain't gonna fill it up. You ain't gonna fill it up. It'll no. You'll get people chilling there though. They'll be there week 8 and 10. You'll see. But it's nice. She'll get as I say in reference to Legion, she'll get some people coming through her doors and testing those brand new lights, by the way, that they installed just for the league, that they are helping, that I believe the league actually helped put in themselves actually as part of the whole thing. So good on them.
It'll be a nice little change of atmosphere, protective, get a week off, check out a different stadium. Again, it's going to be big. So even if they have a good turnout, it won't look nearly as big as if it was at protective. But, hey, I'm looking forward to it. One thing I'm not necessarily looking forward to this weekend, Zach, is my picks. I feel like I'm on this 2-2 streak. I just can't edge out any of these weeks here. And I mean, you graciously took the loss with that Maulers pick.
I did.
I should have been a little bit smarter with maybe my Bandits pick, we'll say, and my Stars one, because I based them primarily on their records of win-losses.
So again, we split it fully. Like I said, I'll be frank. I thought the Gamblers were going to take it, and credit, like I said, the prediction of that thought I'd see Houston's front four on defense would take over. That didn't come to fruition, by the way. So that, like I said, that got turned on its head. We split it up. It's just how it is right now. It's unpredictability and some gambling. Oh yeah, I would say some gambles. No pun intended in some ways. Honestly. Oh, but,
look at our first game this week, and I might regret saying this, but this feels like the freebie pick of the week, right? We got the Generals taking on the Maulers. And if it wasn't for Kirby, Wilson, and Vadley arguing on the sidelines, I might even go for the Maulers. I don't see the fluke happening this week unless there's just a complete collapse from the Generals. I mean, Luis Perez would need to come out of the game, no DeAndre Johnson, and have them rely on whoever's sitting behind there. I guess Laletta, right? It would be their next option down. And even then, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening anytime close. Now, this game I feel like has the opportunity to be a blowout, but it's a late game on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern on USA. So there's not going to be a lot of people probably tuning in, at least in comparison to the games on Saturday with Fox here. Saturday and Sunday, rather. Zach, in any crazy world, do you disagree with anything I say or anything to add with that assessment there?
Nope.
Yeah.
I have had my fill of Pittsburgh on it. I don't see them pulling an upset, quite frankly. To me, it's a dysfunctional I can't say organization because it's not like it's a separate entity. It's a very dysfunctional squad.
Right.
That's all I can tell you. I don't know what to expect, even what they're going to bring out. I mean, Vadley was benched mid fourth quarter, so you got Roland Rivers maybe starts. Maybe Vad comes back out after an attitude adjustment. I don't know. And I think that I don't trust the Maulers to have a competent offensive game plan to take on the Generals. Defensively, I think that they can keep them in contest, but DeAndre Johnson is activated again. Last week they said he was arguably almost able to come back against the Bandits, but they sat him out of safety. I assume he's going to be starting this game. And the fact that they can rest Luis Perez if they want, and DeAndre, they can get a little more up to speed, or they don't have to. Quite frankly, they can go do Luis, and then they can hold off and keep Johnson on the side if they want as a backup in emergency.
Right.
Nonetheless, there's too much weaponry here. There's too much overpowering weapons that the Generals have at their disposal. It's not going to be close. Maybe it is. I know that the league has been, still is pretty close games most weeks, but I don't know. I just feel like this one's going to be like a landslide in a way.
I just have a feeling, Cavante Turpin, Victor, all of the star players are going to get their time to shine in this game for the Generals. I just have a sick feeling about it. I'm going to be tuned in. I'm going to be watching because, you know what, though? It could be the upset, and boy, oh boy, what an upset would it be. It won't change really the outcomes going into the playoffs, I don't think.
No.
But, it would be a morale booster, or if anything, if you're going to take a loss, this is the kind of team you kind of want to lose against, too, because it'll set you back to reality, right? There's all sorts of lessons you can get by losing to a team like the Maulers. Don't think it's happening, though. But it could, if it does happen, could be a valuable lesson for these Generals players going into the playoffs. I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it like that.
I'm nothing much else I can add. Pittsburgh has a lot to figure out this offseason that I think the league and their own coaching staff is going to have some serious talks when they do what I assume is exit interviews between folks that are upper brass and coaching staffs. So they have a lot they need to figure out. Luckily, to me, after this week, that might be a possibility where you can talk about them being officially in the off-season mode of let's see what we got. Let's see if we can salvage something. It's not going to be this one, though. I just don't see it. There's too much bad juju around this right now for Pittsburgh. And so, I have 1-7. I see it right now. I think right now they're on pace to finish the worst in the league. Just my honest opinion. Next up on the docket is really the game I'm most intrigued to watch. And of course it's on Fox here, and it's the Stallions game, but it's really the decider of the division, of the South Division. And it's a rematch of a contest that was one of the best top marquee matchups this year. One that had a lot of intensity in it, with the Breakers playing the Stallions for their second matchup of the season. Last time these two played, 22-13 loss for the Breakers, came down to the wire. Felt like it was very back and forth. Felt like there were a lot of stakes, a lot of high profile plays, truly a primetime heavyweight fight. And I imagine you're going to see the same thing again. And maybe even closer. Larry Fedora, you get a little more time to study what the Stallions do. Credit they kind of morph and change.
Right.
I also want to mention, though, Birmingham, the status of Marlon Williams, the status of Victor Bolden, that's kind of important.
Oh yeah.
They were knocked out. Williams wasn't even part of last week's game. Bolden was knocked out with a hamstring. That affected how they played.
Sure.
They leaned a lot more on Bo Scarborough, and Scarborough wasn't in that first matchup too. So a lot more has changed. New Orleans, about the same as what you imagined last time.
Right. Maybe a little bit more banged up. Right. And that's
maybe a little bit more. That's probably the best you can put it, though.
Yeah. So that's either way you look at it. I think this is going to be a tough game. I think it's still going to be a close game. This is, like you mentioned, this kind of decides that it at least keeps the Breakers in there if they want to win the division. 3 p.m. Fox in Birmingham, again at Legion Field, though. So the crowd is undecided. So that could be maybe our first inkling to see how Birmingham does if there isn't a big crowd. And maybe that'll have something to come into play here. Bo Scarborough, I think, might be the deciding factor. My initial thoughts were to go with the Breakers here and say that they pull off the quote-unquote upset. And I'm still thinking about going that direction, if only because they've proven that they're very good at coming back in the second half. But second only to the Birmingham Stallions, who are almost consistently down at the first half. They're the anti-Houston Gamblers. Down at the half, win in the second. So I think this is going to be close. I think I'm going to have to give it to Birmingham. 8-0. Edging them out, though. Edging them out. Here's the other reason I'm going for this. I'm looking at games last week. Should the Breakers have gone to overtime with the Michigan Panthers? The records say no. Yes, there's nuances and intricacies and little differences that could lead us in that direction, but they did. So I think that's what ultimately puts me on the Stallions side. But I'll tell you this, I want the Breakers to win. I want the Breakers to pull it out, just show their dominance. But, you know, we can get into the last game of the week and to trying to even out this Southern Division. And that could be another interesting thing to look forward as we move in the season. What's your take on the rematch of the Breaker Bay Brawl here, though?
Well, good question. That's not the Baker Bay.
Oh, yeah, that's
the Breaker
right.
Bay Brawl. You jumped the gun. That's
yeah.
next week, my friend.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, credit. It feels like a rivalry in terms of the intensity. But I honestly look at this one, and I almost want to see if Birmingham can take advantage of the run game, similar to how it felt like the Panthers did last week and how the Generals did a few weeks prior against the Breakers. That's going to be what they're going to need to lean on. Like I said, the status of Victor Bolden, Marlon Williams, those are going to be kind of a thing to keep an eye on right now. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen anything with that yet as of this show, but if they're healthy, that opens your offense a little more up. Victor Bolden being, of course, the all-purpose yards leader in the league. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a massive weapon on in two phases of the game that you don't get to draw from at any time. But I think for New Orleans, I want to see if they learned anything, and if, you know, Kyle Sloter has settled down and can kind of settle down from what they'll probably see in pressure. Mm-hmm. You know,
right.
One thing Birmingham did really well in their first matchup, they kind of confused Kyle and they kind of put him off his game. Looked like he was really uncomfortable. I know he was dealing with that groin a bit too, so he wasn't as mobile. But yeah, you know, they made him uncomfortable. They made him in the pocket not really settle in. This one, I want to see if he's adjusted, you know, the whole season, if he's finally getting that down. And quite frankly, I want to see him start pushing the ball more again. You know, I feel like the explosive plays to Adams and Dixon have slowed down in recent weeks. It feels like they've kind of constrained the offense a little more to more be running with Ellison Jones in the backfield. I hope that they're able to open it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do I think they win this matchup? I'm actually going to say they do. And I think my opinion on that is that I know New Orleans Sloter's gotten banged up a little bit. Overall, though, they still have most of the same roster that's coming back from week 4. Like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, this week as to who's available for Birmingham. I think if you don't have Bolden or Marlon Williams at your disposal, you know, we saw last week, Osiris Mitchell generally has been in good connection with Jamar Smith, but last week he wasn't the case. Maybe that changes up because Smith is very hot and cold at times. Mm-hmm. But if he's not available and the Breakers focus on just stopping Bo Scarborough and maybe CJ Marable, I don't know, man. I think that you can possibly see them walk away. New Orleans is really the only other opponent besides New Jersey that has any dog in the fight of taking out Birmingham all 4 quarters. Mm-hmm. I think they do this one. Right. Which would be detrimental to the Bandits, of course.
Oh, sure.
That wouldn't be good for them, but I think they walk away with it. It's gonna be one of the best games of the year to me.
What I would love to see is back-to-back overtime games for the Breakers, because this is the game of all games that I feel like deserves to go to overtime. Right? Just 2 big, mean teams in the South Division, seemingly about to meet up in the playoffs. I don't want to push out Tampa Bay just yet.
Not yet.
But
not yet.
Wouldn't that be the way to wrap up this game? I mean, because then you look at if they do meet up in the playoffs here in a couple weeks, boy, we got some tight, close teams. The last time they met, it went into overtime. It adds to the story of the game. I don't know if we'll see it, but I think it's going to be a close game here. Maybe it will, maybe it won't.
I'm looking forward to that one. Like I said, that to me, that's my game of the week. Biggest playoff implications as well. And right now, I mean, we might be seeing a matchup number 3. So I would love to get that's also why I would love to see New Orleans win, just so we can get a rubber match in the playoffs to get that extra tension to it.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's not saying that you can lose 2 and then you win the third. That's happened in the past.
Oh, sure.
But, you know, I think like just to add a little more drama where it's like both these teams, they've stolen one from each other. Who's going to take it this time? Who's learned to roll with the punches the most? Who makes less mistakes? You know, like I said, I think New Orleans right now, you know, Birmingham has a few injuries that are key. That's the only reason I'm doing it. I know Scooby Wright's stats is still even iffy too. Credit their defense has been able to hold up just fine without him, but if he's in, that might also affect this. I still think New Orleans, though, this is their time. And speaking of playoff matchups, this next one, Michigan, this is do or die. This is the final chance you have, you know, for a season of chances, for a season of opportunities. Hell, Philadelphia, they could have already been a game up on Philly by this point. They were one 21-yard field goal away from walking out and having one game up on them, to where this could have been a matchup for possibly the second spot right now.
Oh, sure.
Where we'd be seeing them flip going into week 9. So the Panthers, 1-6, they face the Stars. Philadelphia essentially locks up their playoff seed if they beat Michigan. That's all they have to do. Win against Michigan on Sunday on Fox. And then it's all about seeding at that point, you know, or really getting the division title. That's it. You know, and you know, one of their they end the season against the Generals.
Which is another interesting one. It could have that back-to-back going right into the playoffs, which, I mean, I kind of want to see. This game, I mean, this one is going to be an interesting one because the Panthers are just one of these teams that I feel like could win any game they play. It's just a matter of if they do or don't. They did 1 week, but that was it. The Stars, they seem to be just going all in the right direction, though. They just seem to be, everything is, I don't want to say going their way, but things are trending in the right direction, right? Their offense, their running game's getting a little bit better. The defense is getting a little bit more solid. Sure, Michigan's made some changes because the Stars, the last time they met up, it was a tight game, right? It came down to that kick. That's something that Michigan's adjusted since then, but the Stars have made some strides since then as well. I'm going to have to say, I'm going to say the Stars stamp it out as much as I don't want them to, just because I want some openness, some suspense. I'm going to say they get it done. Again, I could see this being a very close game, early game on Fox, but I think the Stars move to 5-3, seal things up. And then they have some thinking to do. Then they have a couple weeks to just really focus. How the hell do we beat the Generals in Canton, Ohio, come that playoff matchup?
Right. Look, and I also have Philadelphia taking this. I have a little uncertainty on my prediction on terms of, who's going to be playing quarterback for Michigan. You know, will Josh Love get the start even with that hand issue that he had at the end of last week's competition against the Breakers? Or does Jeff Fisher go back to using Paxton Lynch, who, when you remember when they made the switch to Paxton Lynch earlier this year against the Maulers, he was really high on Paxton Lynch. And I think that he was going to run with him as his starter the rest of the season for the most part. I wonder if that is something maybe they do switch it up, because Jeff Fisher, they did talk during the game, you know, how healthy is Paxton? They said he was at 70%. They felt, even for that,
right.
Like he was emergency duty. So with another week under your belt, do you go to Paxton? I almost think they do. I kind of think Jeff wants to see what he has in Lynch for next year. Because I don't think, because personally Paxton has enough time to play where he's not going to me, he's not a threat to leave the NFL.
Right.
I don't know his contract status or anything, but in theory, if he wanted to stay in spring football, he has that second year, he can go right back. And Jeff seems to like him. So I would want to see some film with him. I think they start Paxton. I still think that they lose to Philadelphia, but you get it's a little more, I guess they're kind of evaluating. Like it's an extreme long shot to get in.
Right.
You know,
Right.
They really would need to run the table, and Philadelphia would have to utterly collapse for this to even be a relative chance at getting in. They would go in 4-6 at that point.
Right.
Jeff Fisher-esque at best, you know. I don't think it happens. I think Philadelphia, like we've talked, you know, offensive run game, it's coming on strong. Everyone's healthy there. They're hitting their stride at the right time. You know, Case Cookus has settled into this offense. He's done an excellent job, I think, at taking up the reins and doing what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. If he can calm down a little bit, limit some of the early turnovers that he has in games, they're set up really well offensively with the weapons they have around him. You know, Bug Howard, Jordan Sewell, Alexander, you name it, Overton. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of people they can throw to. Roland. They got a lot of guys. And defensively, you know, Monty Dennis, Chang Stribling on the outsides. You got Adam Rodriguez going off the edge. They're hitting their stride too. This is just, I think, another game. They're going to solidify their record, keep showing that they are moving in the right track. And Bart Andrus has a squad that at least is, I don't know if they'll look ahead too far, but you at least are thinking, well, they've locked this up. Now they can start thinking about New Jersey. Mm-hmm. How do we get past New Jersey? Which, I mean, they played them close. Their one matchup earlier this year with Brian Scott. That's the first game Case Cookus was in, by the way. You know, right. So they have the firepower, but I think they just got to get past Michigan. Could be a trap game. I hope they don't see it that way. I hope that Bart's kind of pushing it up as a, look, win and we're in. We get that nice slip from the guys of the Hall of Fame Village.
Right.
If we do that. So I am with you. Philadelphia, they're clinching the spot this week. Michigan and Pittsburgh can finally start thinking about the offseason and can start using the next 2 weeks to evaluate what they have or theoretically will have going into 2023.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be a fun game. Maybe we'll see another overtime game, but even then, I think the Stars they have too much mustard in their pocket for the Panthers at this point.
Well, and maybe, I mean, Michigan, they played close games all year. So I think, to me, you're going to be guaranteed a close finish. I think it's going to be a close one, you know? I just don't think Michigan has what is needed per status quo to get over that hump, to get a win here. I could be wrong. Philadelphia is very hot and cold, but I think they're hitting a hot streak right now at the right time. You know, 2-game winning streak. I think it goes to 3
right
after this week. Simple as that. And that leaves the final game on the docket here. Gamblers versus the Bandits. Houston, they're already in the offseason structure. Like, there's nothing they're playing for right now. They can't make the playoffs. To me, you know, Kenji Bahar being in this week, you know, as the starter, to me, that's just meaning you're going to evaluate him.
Right.
You're going to start looking at the roster as a whole, you know, again, keeping in mind that, you know, you have to opt into the second year, but nonetheless, guys that do, I mean, you're going to be evaluating how this team works for next year.
Oh, right on.
So simple as that. As for the Bandits, I mean, win and you can keep up with the Breakers. That's what you got to do. You want to make sure that you don't want the doomsday scenario of the Breakers clinch somehow, like I'm projecting they might, or that they could possibly, and that, you know, week 9 is for nothing.
Right.
You want to at least get to week 9 and say, okay, we still have a shot. We can go after them, but don't overlook the Gamblers just because of that. So
right on.
Simple thing.
So I'll make a prediction here. I don't think the Gamblers are going to win. I don't think they're going to do it. And honestly, I think this might be the week that they don't lead at halftime. And that might feel like an omen. And I'm sure the broadcast team will bring it up of, hey, they were leading at the half and all these other games. They couldn't pull it out. Maybe this is the game. I think you're a little bit too banged up. I think you have a little bit too much work to just kind of get that defense really patched up, full 60-minute game. And then, I mean, going in there and really just experimenting with your backup quarterback. Sure, there might be some moments of greatness, but I don't think they're going to have enough to pull it out. Add in the fact that Coach Haley is going to probably pull out a lot of stops to make sure that their team pulls this one out. If I was a gambling man, and I am, no pun intended, the coaching staff for the Bandits have been set up all week looking at a lot of film, their own and their opponents, seeing what are the things we need to tighten up because we need to win. We need to win this week or it could be over. We could be just as good as the Gamblers, regardless of the record when it comes to a postseason appearance. So, yeah, I think the Bandits pull it out, get back at 500, maybe keep them in the game here. But I don't see the Gamblers pulling it out. And honestly, I won't even go as far as saying this one will be a close game. I don't necessarily think it'll be a blowout, but I think the Bandits will take them by more than one possession. I'll leave it at that.
I do want to see Kenji Bahar with a whole week of practice, because I saw things I like that maybe Thorson doesn't always bring. I mean, he's a lot quicker on the draw. And Kenji does have a solid arm. I just think that, he kind of got thrown into a position where I think they just got overwhelmed in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And I think some drives just started stalling out, which again, that's been a Kevin Sumlin MO. I think he's great with the early game script, like game planning in terms of like what we're running play by play for the first few series. Second half though, things fall apart. It just seems like inconsistent play calling, inconsistent execution plagues them.
Right.
And I think it will again this week. As much as I rag on Tampa Bay, one thing Tampa Bay is good at, they're good at beating up on the lower level teams.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Their only 3 wins are against 1-6 squads this year. I don't see Houston going 2-6. I think that, quite frankly, it's a roster that's looking to next year, or to me already.
Oh yeah.
And maybe that's the inspiration. They have nothing to lose now. Maybe Houston rallies with that, but Tampa has even more that's at stake for them. I think the Bandits, they're like the South's version of the Stars, where they're hot and cold. I think they rally behind Tom, who has a good week. They finish off the Gamblers. They get to 4-4, and no matter what happens in New Orleans, they get to week 9. And we'll get to have that their one last shot at getting the playoffs.
Right.
So I think they get what they need done.
Right. And I hope that's the case, because I want that extra excitement. I want something to look forward to, some make or break moments later in the season here. And yeah, I think they have every chance to do it. You mentioned they're kind of hot and cold, but I think this is the week that they're going to pull it out. And if there's any team that they're going to do it against, it's this one right here. Like you mentioned, they've only beaten one-win teams, and here they are again for a double dose, if you will. Maybe we'll just have to see.
It's going to be a fun time here for the end of the season, and like I said, I hope for the sake, because I know some people brought up, it's like, man, we have the playoffs decided 2 weeks out, and I hope that is not the case. Like I said, I want some drama with these matchups, at least for the 2 seeds. So for that sake, I hope it does turn that way. My picks do assume it goes that way. Yours do too, no matter what. But still, I do hope that we get at least the South still has that battle next week that we can talk about. And then week 10, we can start discussing, all right, what's the strategy for this?
Right.
How do you play week 10? Well,
especially
if they're all locked up in week 10, how do you play week 10?
Well, especially Philly and New Jersey, because you're going to have to go and play them the week after. You don't want to give them all your tricks, right? Nope. You don't want to play your true real game. So that one is going to be a really funny game to watch, I think, week 10, because I could see just a lot of special teams plays, just wonky stuff, just being like, we're not going to do this next week, but we're just trying to get through 60 minutes, boys. 60 minutes of fake punts and all sorts of goofy things. That's what I really want to see. Give us some double passes. Just really hit the gauntlet of trying everything out that you don't normally do and see what sticks.
There you go.
We'll see though. We'll see. It could also be the most boring game ever, where they each just run the ball a couple yards at a time, just trying to stay safe and run the clock down. Just run it a couple inches. Let the full 40 seconds go down. All right, run down the clock. At 0-0 overtime.
My mind's tracing back to last year. You have 2 teams in the NFL that they're like, hey, if we do a handshake and we just choose to tie,
right?
You can pull to get. You want to just tie, But no, that's not the case here. I mean, I think at the very least you're gonna want to see these, at least in week 10 when we talk about it. You're gonna want to. I think it's gonna be more about the TSL angle, like the Spring League's Mento, getting film.
Sure.
For people.
All right.
That's what I think will happen. You'll see a lot of I think you'll see a lot of backups, or like maybe some of the inactive roster guys will get moved up and they'll get a chance to play. That's what I think happens.
Which is honestly a good thing too, because you might have to lean on some of those guys in the playoffs. Anything could happen. So having them there's a big difference between playing a game of football and playing it on TV, right? You get those jitters out in a regular season game where they're less impactful than they are the next week in the playoffs. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot of that in that game. And quite honestly, we'll probably just see a lot of that in general for the teams that are moving into the postseason. For the teams that aren't, like you said, it's really examining, getting footage, preparing for season 2, finding the pieces that work and finding the pieces that you need to sort for from here until presumably next April.
Yep, sure thing. Stefan, it's been a good one. Episode 22 is in the books.
I'm feeling good.
Season's chugging right along. Playoffs around the corner.
Isn't it still amazing?
Harder. Yeah, it's harder and harder to believe. You know what week 8 will symbolize? Out of the last 3 leagues, including this one, we'll now be at the same mark as the AAF.
Yeah.
So we'll get a week 9 coming next week. It looks
knock on wood, Zach. Jeez.
Unless something sneaks up on us, which dear God, I hope it doesn't. It looks like week 9's coming.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident about a week 9, and you know what? I might actually go get a bottle of champagne and celebrate for a week 9 kickoff, because seriously, it's been a while since it's been a while. UFL, I guess, would be the last one.
Yeah, if you want, I was gonna say, you talk about out of technicality, out of professional football, UFL kind of is the last one,
right?
Of the bigger ones to do it. So.
I mean, the last one before that is XFL 2001, and then really before that it was USFL, the original one, which went for a few seasons there, which it looks like we're about to do again, and I'm feeling good about it.
It's good. It's great. It's great. We get more quality football. We're gonna keep on having some awesome games coming up this weekend. More stuff's getting thrown at us just because, more and more I get to enjoy and evaluate this as a league about football first. Right now it's less about the financials. We still have to keep an eye, but I love it when I get to focus mainly on the games, the matchups at hand, all the stuff that makes game day great. First and foremost, that's the best part about it. And I'm excited to get the rest of the season under my belt. And I know you are very much too. It's going to be a good run. Any final words for you, my friend?
I don't think so. I'm just excited to look forward to the next week of action, and in a couple more weeks, really 4 weeks, we'll be hanging out again over in Canton, Ohio, hanging out with the fans. So I'm counting down the days, getting things ready. I cannot wait to see the USFL championship come to fruition. I mean, we've talked about it time and time again. Screw week 9, a championship. I want to see the trophy come out on the field. I want to see some players celebrating out there.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to be there in person for that 4th of July weekend.
Confetti cannons, man.
Hell yeah. I'm beyond it.
Get the confetti cannons. We'll get Daryl Johnston up there presenting the trophy to, I don't know, say if it's my scenario, it'll be like either you'll see Luis Perez or DeAndre Johnson lift it, or you'll see Jamar Smith and Skip Holtz lift it or something.
Right.
That's my prediction still right now. But man, I can't believe we're almost there. And that it's incredible. And thank you. And we got to thank you guys for coming along for our ride for this. And still have more ahead. Still plenty more ahead. More seasons ahead. I'll even throw out there too. That's awesome to say. That is so awesome to say. So until next time, guys, look, if you enjoyed this episode, come on, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell. It builds morale for you, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform if you listen to our audio edition on Apple, Spotify, you name it. If you're on Apple, by the way, we'd love to have your review. If you like this show, drop a 5-star review down there. Tell us what you like, maybe what you don't like. We'll take the feedback. We like to hear you. No curtains here, man. We like to improve the show and get it to the best of our ability and for what you want to enjoy out of it too. Besides that, follow us on social media at USFL Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Especially be sure to follow us along for Summer Stock coming up July 3rd and 2nd and 3rd. Yes. But July 3rd is the broadcast. July 2nd is that tour of the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. We can't wait to see you guys there, and we can't wait to be there. For my buddy here with a ref himself, I'm Zach Kyleman saying so long. Thanks as always for tuning in. Thanks for the support. We got a lot more to go. But boy, the ride just keeps on getting more hectic and fun. Catch you next week, everybody.